ballistic missile attacks directed in the area of central Israel and northern Israel continue. But after several false alarms last night, a missile attack materialized, but instead of hundreds of missiles and drones, there were tens of missiles and drones. There were some that got through. We've seen some 4 impacts in Herzliya, which is just north of Tel Aviv. One struck a parking lot where a bus was set on fire. We've also got reports that a residence was hit. No one was home at the time, and no one was injured. It all happens as President Trump abruptly left the G7 summit in Canada and posted an ominous message to his Truth Social, concluding with the line, "Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran." Israeli warplanes continue to aggressively target Iran. This morning, the IDF claims to have killed Ali Shadmani, Iran's newly appointed wartime chief of staff. He was the most senior military commander closest to the Grand Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, but he only had the job for 4 days. He was appointed after his predecessor was killed in the early stages of what Israel is now calling, or has been calling, Operation Rising Lion. We know through our Pentagon team that the U.S. is moving mid-air refueling tankers to Europe to possibly assist in the efforts here in the Middle East. Also, the USS Nimitz carrier strike group has been moved to the Middle East ahead of schedule. All of this as President Trump posted to Truth Social that he's not leaving the G7 to work on a ceasefire. It's much bigger than that, he wrote. Carly?
Yeah, Mike, 2 things happened last night within the hour of each other. The first was that the president announced that he is going to be leaving the G7 summit a day early. And if that wasn't surprising enough, he also posted on Truth Social warning all civilians to leave Tehran. So the indication would be that that something major is happening. As we ask this question, I believe that we're seeing the plane that president is on. As we said that he did leave that G7 summit in Canada. And it's just touching back down at Joint Base Andrews. So as he gets set to deboard that plane, I'm going to continue my question with you. And it would indicate by that Truth Social post and the fact that he left the summit early, that Israel is planning something big. Is that the sense that you're getting when it comes to all of this?
That is a sense is getting it, and you get some of the sense that the U.S. may somehow be involved from the president's words, and that leads to a lot of speculation. We know to this point the U.S. has assisted with missile interception, and that is the real missile interception and providing weapons to Israel to this point, and that has been the limit of U.S. involvement in this particular context. But there is a lot of speculation now that you may see more U.S. involvement. One thing that Israel would like from the U.S. is assistance in terms of bunker-busting weapons. Only the B-2 bomber can carry this large bunker buster that the U.S. does indeed possess, and that could quite possibly allow penetration of the nuclear facility at Fordo. A lot of that, of course, is speculation, but you're certainly getting some hints out of the president.
The Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime.
It's kind of a tradition down here. We tape these videotapes to the missiles. Each one is labeled evidence. This one's about a president.
I have been training for this day my whole life. Humans think this is a religious war, but I say, bah!
Imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey.
We have advanced technology these days. When the time is right, I will push the button.
This is where we launch the tapes with all the evidence. People say this war is about killing people, but really, it's about protecting our elite.
I don't know if we have nukes or not, but I got this button.
Sometimes Jerry's making a literal movie, okay? And when the story changes at 9 a.m., because 9 a.m. this morning, Kash Patel released evidence of mass voter fraud to steal the 2020 election, the moment we've all been waiting for is happening right freaking now. You know, you just can't change the movie that quickly. So we appreciate the goats on hang gliders. The POV was he dropping the Epstein evidence? Was that it? They're launching the Epstein evidence into the sand in Iran. Maybe that's what's actually going on here, ladies and gentlemen, on Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the Mideast, or what's not going on. Very interesting little wars happening. But the wars I'm the most interested in is the wars inside of MAGA. President Trump versus Tucker Carlson. Don't let it happen. Say it ain't so, Joe. Please. We're going to fight against the infighting that's happening right now over America's potential involvement in the war in Iran. Not good. Not going to bode well for Trump's legacy. We're going to lock it in, and you know this show is a show about peace. We want to keep our boys safe. We want to keep our country safe and strong. And the best way to do that is, of course, not plunder ourselves into someone else's war. Speaking of, there's a lot of problems in this country. Like, I don't know, the Chinese, definitely guaranteed, stole the 2020 election on behalf of Joe Biden. Straight out of a movie, Kash Patel with the intel this morning. The FBI with a little locked room. I wonder what was in it. We're going to talk about the fake mail-in ballot operation and how easy it was to steal the 2020 election. How right Donald Trump is. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Oh, by the way, our first in-studio guest. Forgot about that. First in-studio guest, Kelly Leler will be joining us, head of the Small Business Administration, Trump appointee. He'll be in freaking studio. Yeah. Kelly Leler, former senator from Georgia, and again, this was our first shot, so give us, we're at full capacity here. The freaking studio team's worked all night to make sure that we can rock it in the studio live. This will be our first shot. Tim Pool, we're coming for you, baby. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get to all of that, make sure you have your house in order. American Financing can help you do that. Get out of credit card debt that is crippling. 25% interest rates, bad and illegal. So many things should be illegal, and that's one of them. Should I call American Finance today to refinance and get out of my credit card debt? Yes, Americans are suffering from credit card debt at rates that are unspeakable. The worst in my lifetime, and that's because of Joe Biden. It's not your fault. Joe Biden and the economy just crippled and inflation skyrocketing. It's really tough to stay ahead of that stuff. And trust me, as a small business owner myself, it's a lot of tough decisions have to get made. Ladies and gentlemen, keep your financial house sturdy and in order like we do. You should call American Financing today. No upfront fees, no pressure. It costs you absolutely nothing. Find out how much you can save every single month. Call today. You can delay 2 mortgage payments and save on average of $800 a month. American Financing at 888-528-1219. That's 888-528-1219. AmericanFinancing.net/Benny. All right, let's talk a little bit about voter fraud. I want to establish a couple of very important things. Let's start with our handy-dandy little map here from the Heritage Foundation, shall we? And what's up to the chat? The chat, the comments on screen, ladies and gentlemen. What up to the chat? This morning, we're going to go in hard, and we're going to show you something remarkable, which is that every single state has active voter fraud criminality going on inside of it. The darker states means worse voter fraud. Amazing what's going on in Minnesota. There are hundreds of cases of voter fraud in Minnesota that would be considered mass voting fraud. Just a reminder, raise your hand if you're an American citizen. Are you an American citizen? When a criminal alien votes, they steal your most sacred constitutional right. Because a criminal alien votes, they vote against you, they cancel out your vote. Do you understand? They might as well just come up to your house and rip your ballot up in front of your face, spit on it, throw it in your face, and then stomp on it, set it on fire. That's what these people do. That's what they're allowing to happen. Now, every single state in America has voter fraud, active voter fraud criminal cases going on right now. So yes, there is mass voter fraud in this country. This was something that we all used to agree upon in a stunning clip that just boggles the mind, frankly, from the year 2018, back when Dems were scared that Trump stole the election. Very interesting, by the way, how it all comes around. Very, very interesting how biblical this all is, isn't it? Isn't it wild? That the weapon upon which they fashion against you shall be their undoing. The sword of Damocles. They kept saying that Donald Trump used a foreign country to win and steal the election. That's what they said in 2016. They bitched and they moaned and they muled about it forever and ever. And ladies and gentlemen, lo and behold, it was the Democrats who used a foreign country to steal the election from the rightful president in 2020. Isn't that amazing? Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We want to establish just a couple of very quick baseline things. That we used to be in agreement as a country. None other than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris in the year 2018, linking arms with Republicans and saying voter fraud is not only a horrible problem in this country, we need to go back to paper ballots. We need to go back to counting ballots out in the open, a physical receipt, stamping the ballots, watermarking them, making sure that everyone can see who voted. Here's the stack of citizens. Here's the IDs. Here's the votes. That's what we all agree with, obviously. Kamala Harris, based, listen to this.
Systems to audit, but also what they can do around best practices and best machinery. We are talking with them about the fact that it is probably best that you do not have your election system connected to the internet, because that will create greater vulnerabilities. And then look at where we are now in this year of our Lord 2018. We're talking about paper ballots, but that actually might be one of the smartest systems. Going back to, a day when we could have something tangible that we can hold on to, because Russia cannot hack a piece of paper like they can a computer system connected to the internet.
Insane. I totally agree with everything Kamala Harris said right there. Please don't unsubscribe. Please don't cancel me. Please don't roast me in the chat. Fine, roast me in the chat. That's fine. I understand. That is the burden that we bear. But I agree with Kamala Harris there. Kamala Harris straight up says, I don't like electronic voting. I think evil foreign countries can hack our voting systems. They're really tough to secure. We should go back to paper ballots. We should watermark those damn things. You should have a ballot tied to a official ID and only citizens voting. I'm like, wait, who the hell is that? Then Kamala got what we call the briefing on this program. Kamala got taken into a little room at the CIA and told about a special plan. And that plan was pretty simple. Here's how it goes. We're going to release a virus that we created. The CIA did create this virus. Look at all the funding. Look at the number of trips that Fauci took in the dark of night. Fauci would take a black van to the CIA. He took a black van to the CIA with his security team. It's on the records. We have the documents. This guy was like regularly traveling there. No official business. No explanation. It's because the CIA was funding the bioweapons program after 9/11 in the Patriot Act. There's a massive allocation of cash in order to create our own bioweapons program. Dr. Fauci was in charge of it. He kept having lab leaks. They ran that all through the CIA. Once the lab leaks started to leak into the American population, Barack Obama, in this crazy thing that I totally agree with, again, like I agree with Obama and Kamala in the same show. I'm going to cancel myself. But Obama banned Dr. Fauci from doing gain-of-function research. Even Obama is like, this is going to end terribly. And this might be a way that they probably Obama got a briefing, said they're going to release a virus and destroy your presidency. It's a way to hold, again, a sword of Damocles over his head. So you go, ban gain-of-function research. Fauci takes that offshore and does it in Wuhan, China. Uses a bunch of cutouts, funds the creation of COVID. They make a Frankenstein virus. And Kamala Harris got the briefing. Hey, listen, we created this virus. It's going to cause such panic that we're going to be able to break the voting systems in America. We'll do something called mail-in ballots that no one will ever be able to secure. We're going to get those mail-in ballots, and we're going to get millions of them that are illegal. And we're going to shove them so quickly through a voter counting machine that we'll be able to manufacture effectively the number of ballots that we'll need to win. And then on election night, you'll see these little bloops, of the ballot. Can you grab me one of those famous charts from 2020? Wherever we need the ballots, we'll just print 1 million of them, right? Plow them through. Kamala, shut your yapper. Stop talking about securing our elections. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to scare the hell out of people. Make sure that every person in America is down with just voting by mail, which is an obscene way to vote, and the dumbest possible way to vote. Unlimited vote by mail. Mail everybody a ballot, every address a ballot. Mail a bunch of plots of land in Detroit that aren't even real. Just a reminder that Detroit, there are giant acreages in Detroit where hundreds of mail-in ballots were cast from. And when you go there, it's just an empty field. That's the address. It's the listed address for the ballot. And the point is, ladies and gentlemen, that led to election results that look kind of like this. Wow, how mysterious. Would you look at that at 2 a.m. in the morning? Bloop. Just print enough ballots in order to get it done. Now, Kash Patel is finally releasing evidence from within the FBI that explains these kind of charts. It's wild. But a rule that we use at this program is we practice. When somebody tells you who they are, believe them. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And when somebody explains what they're doing, like nod and say, okay, we've heard you. One of the benefits, the feature, not the bug, of Joe Biden having Parkinson's and crippling dementia throughout the last couple of years is that you, like, your brain, as it like disintegrates into the fog, you just don't have the capacity to lie anymore, because lying takes a lot of effort and creativity. And when your brain is being atomized and drifting off into the ether, you don't have the ability for like high creativity. And so you have clips like this of Joe Biden straight up explaining that he's creating the largest election fraud organization in the history of America, because Joe Biden got the briefing. Yo, we're going to release the virus, then we're going to use the virus to scare the hell out of people, change all the election systems, and then we'll rig the election against Trump. And then Joe Biden says, absolutely, here, let me tell that to all the American people. It's on tape. Here you go.
We have put together, and you guys did it for our administration, the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Remember how libs were always like, stop being mean to Joe. Leave Joe alone. Remember that? Shrieking at the top of their lungs that we were being mean to Joe Biden. You should just take him at his words. You should just listen to the words he's saying. Okay, well, the words that Joe Biden said there is we've created the largest voter fraud operation in American history. And look at it on display. I mean, you can watch 2,000 Mules and see it obviously on display as well. But here's CNN. Here's like just one example. There's too many to show you. We'll show you just a few examples of how this worked. Here's CNN. Is this a play-beside? I want this as a play-beside. Okay. Go to play-beside because this is very important. CNN goes to a Dropbox in Ohio, which is a state that's Republican run. So, like, imagine how bad it is in liberal states. And they're live on TV. And this ding-dong reporter goes up to this lady who's like a Democrat activist because she says that she voted for Carter against Reagan. Oh, now you're talking the truest, bluest, like paid Democrat activists. This lady's in a minivan. She has so many ballots in her hand. She's masked. She has so many ballots. She's holding so many ballots. They're falling out of her hands. Now in Ohio, we checked. You're not allowed to handle another person's ballot. That's illegal. You're not allowed to, even in the height of COVID, in this Republican state, you weren't allowed to vote for someone else. You weren't allowed to handle somebody else's ballot. So this is like open criminality caught on CNN in a red state. Imagine how bad it was in blue states. Here we go.
The only ballot drop box in Cuyahoga County, Ohio. You can see this woman right here casting her vote. Did you vote for Reagan or Jimmy Carter? Carter, okay. We don't want to get too personal with people here, but you can see there's actually a traffic jam. You can come around this way and you can see there are, but you can see.
Like ding, 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 like a slot machine granny. Ding, 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 ding. Shoving those ballots in. And of course, you watch 2,000 Mules. You can see it thousands and thousands of times. That people were paid, like, here's a stack of ballots, shove them in there, and we'll give you $10 a ballot, right? This is how it worked. It's still continuing, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a good example right here from New Jersey. This is one of my favorites. Here's the charges. These are the charges, okay? This is the Attorney General Matthew Platkin announced filing of criminal charges against Patterson voter based on falsification of mail-in ballots. Oh, this isn't the right one. Sorry, guys. No, you gotta get the one with like the city council president. Okay, got it. It's one more article up in the script. Thank you. Okay, so the city council president. This is the guy who's in charge of Patterson, New Jersey. It's a famous little city. His name's Alex Menendez. Get a little bit what he got caught doing. Okay, according to the charging documents. This is the guy in charge of the city. All right, guy in charge of the city is charged with him and his little cohort, including his wife and a bunch of his buddies. They were going mailbox to mailbox, door to door, in the middle of the day, just plucking ballots out of people's mailboxes and filling them out for him. They were changing votes. So someone would vote against him. They would pull the ballot out and they just vote for him and insert that vote into the envelope. They did this thousands of times, and guess what? He ended up winning. Isn't that amazing? What an incredible system we have here in this country. If it can work like for some of the dumbest, lowest IQ like Goombas, okay, in Paterson, New Jersey, then how much easier would it be for a sophisticated network to do this at scale throughout the country? If the dumbest people, like Wanda the Stuffer, if the dumbest people in America can pull off heists like this, Wanda the Stuffer, like Wanda from Connecticut, who's on videotape with literal garbage bags of ballots. She looks like election fraud Santa Claus. She looks like election fraud Kris Kringle. Ballot stuffing Saint Nick. She, ladies and gentlemen, got her milk and cookies after delivering a Santa sack of ballots on camera. IQ, maybe room temperature? IQ 70 would be my guess. She's charged with like 92 counts of voter fraud for each fake ballot she created. Here we go.
Wanda has been arrested. The Democrat operative who was caught on camera allegedly stuffing ballots in Bridgeport, Connecticut last year was charged with unlawfully possessing another person's ballot and witness tampering. But this has nothing to do with her alleged stuffing in 2023. This goes all the way back to 2019. Wanda was arrested for ballot fraud in the city's 2019 Democrat primary for the same candidate she helped elect in 2023, Mayor Joe Ganim. Wanda is accused of filling out someone's absentee ballot, telling them to not vote in person, and then asking them to not tell investigators about what she said. Wanda isn't the only Democrat arrested for fraud. 3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged. One of them's a city councilman. Wanda's.
Do you see that? Do you see those mugshots? Do you think these people are like high IQ? Do you think these are like top level operators here? No. They created this, they broke the system so that it could be rigged. Trump was right, Trump was right, Trump was right. Final thing, I just need to establish this because they said, we were, listen man, we've been attacked so much over this. I've been waiting for this day. We are here with bells on. I've been waiting for this day. Here with bells on, like election fraud Saint Nick, like election fraud Santa Claus. They kept coming for us. Like we were put on all these lists and everything like that. There's no such thing as mass election fraud. There's no such thing as mass election fraud. Man, when you add up the evidence, like what the question isn't, is there mass election fraud? It's how many elections have been rigged in a row. Check out this poor lady. Final one I'll play. I have so many examples. We could do the next 7 hours on election fraud examples in just recent history. Here's this poor black lady in Massachusetts when there was a spate of election thieves on camera. So they were on camera going up to the mailboxes. Is this clip F? Yeah. Just play this clip as a play beside, please. Just play it with no audio. Here's the Ring doorbell camera. This is not the resident of this home. They're going up. These are thieves. These are Democrat activists going up and plucking the ballots from the mailboxes. And then listen to this poor lady who tried to vote. And they're like, you already voted, lady. And she's like, well, that's not my signature on the ballot. Somebody voted fraudulently for me. They're like, shut up, lady. Right? You hear nothing about black women getting disenfranchised. They're coming after black women's votes. They're trying to stop black women from voting. Well, here's a perfect example of that happening. If you've never heard of this lady, watch.
Second report filed was from this Lawrence woman who's still waiting for elections officials to decide whether her in-person vote will count or the mail-in, which she says has her signature forged.
How come it's not going to be counted if I'm voting right in front of you and I'm telling you that that vote that you have there is not mine?
State elections officials are now sorting through these allegations and were told the results would be delivered before the candidates begin their new terms in January.
We're on it.
Sorry, lady. How much did you hear about, when we were trying to pass election voter, we were going to ask Kelly Leler. She's from Georgia. Okay. She's from Atlanta. You remember when they passed voter ID in Georgia? The literal, ear-piercing shrieking about you're disenfranchising black women. Black women! Well, there's a black woman that was disenfranchised. Here she is on camera saying probably a criminal alien in the Chinese Communist Party stole my vote, forged my signature, all of them major crimes, and then voted on my behalf. Where's the protests? Where's the rallies? Where's the sit-ins? Where's Colin Kaepernick kneeling? Did your balls fall off? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real problem. And so we've done our homework. We know this is an issue. We've established now mass voter fraud is real. And here's who did it. Get a load of this. Kash Patel from this morning. The FBI located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election, including allegations of interference by the Communist Party of China. I've immediately declassified this material and turned it over to Chairman Grassley for further review. What does the documents say? The documents say that China had a scheme to mass produce fake driver's licenses. Here's an image of like what that would look like. Here's an image of a stash of fake driver's licenses. Yeah. This is like a good example of what that would look like. So China mass produces fake driver's licenses in blue states. All you need to do is show up with a driver's license, and you can vote. So China creates millions and millions of fake driver's licenses. They plow people into the voting booths. They show up day of and say, boom, got it. Okay. Don't look too hard at it. Don't check it through a system. Give me a ballot. And then they're able to manufacture millions of ballots for Joe Biden. ALX, can you grab me one quick thing? The number of votes in the popular vote for Democrat candidates. I want to show that like mysterious 20 million person spike for Joe Biden in 2020. Very mysterious. And then, by the way, it went away just 4 years later. 2020, 20 million Americans vanished. I wonder where'd they go? How did they create 20 million voters? Very unique. Like year over year from like 2012, 2016. Yeah. Okay. Newly declassified intelligence reports from August 2020 weren't corroborated or fully investigated. Instead, the FBI just threw them in the trash or threw them in a secret room so no one can find them. Chris Wray testified there's no known plots of foreign interference ahead of the 2020 election, yet he was sitting on credible evidence of a scheme to rig the election against Donald Trump. Whoa! New documents were turned over to Judiciary Committee Chairman Grassley, Republican from Iowa, who had raised concerns that the Bureau and the intelligence hadn't been fully vetted, and instead just dismissed. Thanks to the oversight and partnership, Chairman Grassley and FBI continue to provide unprecedented transparency at the People's Bureau, Patel told Just the News. To that end, we have located documents Chairman Grassley requested which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 election. Specifically, these include allegations for the Chinese Communist Party to manufacture fake driver's licenses to ship them to the United States for the purposes of facilitating fraudulent mail-in ballots. Allegations which, while substantiated, were abruptly recalled and never disclosed to the public. Wow. Officials have seen the documents, told Just the News that the FBI had confidential sources who provided information in the summer of 2020 that the Chinese government was manufacturing and exporting fake U.S. driver's licenses as a plot to create voter IDs for Chinese residents living in the United States. They could vote with fake mail-in ballots. Hold on, Klein. Wait a second, Klein. Hold on. This reminds me of something. Didn't we cover an instance in 2024 where a Chinese student who's a guest here literally was able to cast a vote for Kamala Harris in Michigan, of course, a critical swing state? And we kept screaming at the top of our lungs, how is it possible? How is it possible that a Chinese kid who's here as a guest to simply study for school is able to vote? And we looked it up. And lo and behold, Michigan has same-day voter registration. And if you bring in a driver's license, you can get a ballot and you can vote. And hot dog. Yeah, that's right. So maybe Chinese student was able to pick up one of these hot, spicy General Tso's chicken IDs and walk right in and cast his ballot. And what's amazing about this, here we go, non-citizen, here's from right-wing CBS News, non-citizen Chinese agent charged with illegally registering to vote, casting a ballot in the Michigan general election. You read the article? Michigan counted the ballot. And they said, sorry, no refunds. That's what Michigan said. No refunds. The vote counted. How many cases of this exist? How many cases of this existed in 2020? You know, this is verified. This individual is charged with voter fraud, okay? This is a Chinese student, a student from China at the University of Michigan, voted. The person has been charged with unauthorized election attempt vote, punishable by up to 4 years in prison, $2,000, making false affidavit for the purpose of security of voter registration, which is punishable by 5 years in prison and a $1,000 fine or more. The vote counted. Like, good that they're charging it. The vote counted in all important Wayne County, Michigan. These are like swing states, swing counties, and here are Chinese aliens voting in our election for Kamala Harris. How many times did this happen? Look at all the IDs. And now look at this. Boy, oh boy, do I ever have a chart for you. Klein, you found it. You beautiful, beautiful SOB. Look at that. Would you look at that? Here are the total vote tallies in the last couple of elections. 2012, would you look at that? Wow, Barack Obama, he totally kicked Mitt Romney's ass. Got it. Okay, that's fine. Fair and square. You won, dude. Look at that. Okay, 2016. Hillary Clinton got more votes than Trump. Trump won the Electoral College. The way it works. Cry, lady. Cry more in your box of wine. You old bitter shrew. Okay, but still, you can see that Hillary Clinton got approximately the exact same number of votes. That squares. That stands to reason. And then we're just going to skip 2020 and we're going to zoom right over to Kamala Harris. Look, Kamala Harris in the last election, just a couple months ago, got approximately the exact same number of votes, right? It's like it's on a line, okay? It's on a line. President Trump has become far more popular and has created a really impressive coalition. Now, would you look at that? What the hell happened in 2020? Wow, that's really strange. You know, if you were looking at this from a, sports data perspective or something, you'd be like, someone's doping. You'd say someone's doping. Let's say this were home runs in a season, for the same player, because it's the same Democrat Party. You'd say someone's juicing here. This is like Barry Bonds like situation. It's a Mark McGwire situation. Where the hell did 20 million voters come from? And where did they go? If Democrats created such a powerful coalition, you can't explain to me how they didn't actually vote. And Trump is the same candidate. You've had the same Republican running in 16, 20, and 24. Democracy was on the ballot. Democracy was on the ballot. It's simple Jack. You make me happy. It's a simple Jack election. Never go full retard. That's what's going on here in 2020. They went full retard. And they're expecting us to believe that all these voters have just freaking, they Thanosed them. That's what happened. Freaking Marvel Thanos situation. Boom, they're gone. Poof. Kash Patel is saying this is what happened. Part of the constellation of what happened in 2020 are millions of fake IDs. Okay? Customs and Border Protection had intercepted, listen to this is at the bottom of the article that we were reading. Intelligence sources claim the plot was specifically designed to benefit Joe Biden. They said also that an intelligence report was recalled within a few weeks, and the allegations were never investigated. Wow, that's weird. So they just straight up said, they disappeared it. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's just human behavior, right? So if your wife grabs your phone and starts looking through your text messages and you're like, give that back to me. Does that seem like you're an innocent person? I don't want you to see that. Shut up. Your guilt, we think we're so advanced and AI and everything. We're still just human beings, sort of pretty basic creatures, binary. It's obvious when someone's trying to hide something. Guilt is obvious. You pull someone over at a traffic stop and they're sweating and they're gripping the wheel and they're nervous and they're shaking. The cops just know, right? Open the trunk, sir, right? This is guilt. So they had all this credible reporting that this was happening. Get a load of this. U.S. Customs and Border Protection had intercepted 20,000 fake IDs at the same time. The intelligence so this is what they were able to intercept back when we had an open border, ladies and gentlemen. They got 20,000 fake IDs. Can you put up the chart one more time? Well, how many tranches of 20,000 fake IDs did you need? I mean, think about it. What if they were sending 20,000 a day? Well, then you could quickly manufacture millions of fake voters. Like quickly. And then the votes, as soon as the votes get cast on those mail-in ballots, boom, the voters are gone. You'll never be able to figure out where your illegal votes came from. That was the op. Wow, it's a beautiful thing to see it finally playing out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Very interesting times. We're very, very proud to be able to report this to you. And we look forward to seeing more from our United States Senate. In fact, why not bring on a senator who is going to be joining us right now from the great state of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullen, who really excited to see, ladies and gentlemen, what's next for the proof of mass voter fraud in our country. Welcome the senator to the show live now. Senator, welcome back. What's up?
Interesting, very interesting things happening right now, right? I mean, for those that didn't believe in the deep state, wow, you got to be scratching your head to see what the intel community is uncovering, to see what these secretaries and these directors of these head of these agencies are kicking out all of a sudden. You go, start explaining this, because even for somebody like me, and Benny, I tell people all the time, I am nowhere near a conspiracist. I am all about proofs in the pudding. Let's follow the proof. Until then, it's just a rumor. Right now, though, you go, what?
What? Yeah.
I mean, I know. I mean, listen, you was on a college campus before. You know, there's fake IDs everywhere. So it's fake IDs are nothing new. But to see it coming in from China and then go, oh, there's ballots coming in too. No, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Probably had nothing to do with voter fraud. I'm sure it's just, they're helping good college students because they have so many college students from China that's on our campuses. I'm sure that's what it's about. Yeah.
And they all just want to go out to the bars and, and drink American Miller Lite. That's what they came all the way from China, to get that first frosty mug of Miller Lite. No hate, no hate against Miller Lite. But no, that's not what this was for. This was clearly part of the constellation. I believe it was a large constellation of voter fraud in 2020. And why would they keep this secret? Now, Chairman Grassley really well, and you've been outspoken on this issue. What's going to happen next? Now that we're getting this information that nobody was interested in investigating, very curious, over the last 4 years. What happens next, Senator?
I think there's two paths that's going to go through here. First, you're going to see the intel community, so the FBI, DNI, will probably, and even the CIA, because if it happened over, out of off our shores, the FBI and the CIA will collaborate with it. You could even see where a little bit of this may even be going into the Secret Service, because they actually have a portion of this too. And then you're going to, so they're going to be investigating it, which, Benny, you brought up a very good point that you skipped over really quick just then. Why was it still classified? Why hadn't it already been released to the public? Why was the FBI holding on this? Why is that we had Kash Patel? Why did he have to dig to go find it? What is it? And that even brings up more red flags, right? So that's going to be one area of investigation. What Kash Patel did when he turned it over to Congress, specifically Chuck Grassley, which Chuck, I get, is 91 years old, but he's 91 years old and as sharp as a tack and still gets up every morning and runs about 1.5 miles, and he's still at the office by 5 a.m. He's not Sleepy Joe. Chuck Grassley is one of the sharpest guys, funny, but extremely aggressive when he gets dug in on it. So this will be an investigation on our side. And so we'll probably start working with is states. When we have irregularities, especially higher voting percentages in certain districts and in certain counties and in certain states, those, I'm assuming Chuck Grassley will start working with each one of those individuals being that was in charge from the state all the way to the county, all the way to the precinct, to deal with where the irregularities come from and start trying to identify where the extra votes actually turned up. Because now that we have a reason to dig farther, because remember, the Democrats were blocking us every step of the way. Nothing to look here. Don't pay attention. It's just you're deniers, you're election deniers, you're all this. Now that we have proof that China was clearly playing in our elections, it's opened up a true federal investigation that we're going to have to figure out, one, how did this happen? And two, how to prevent it. We're not going to be able to go back and change the 2020 election. You know, that ship has sailed. But what we can do is prevent it from moving forward so everybody can trust when they go to the ballots anywhere in the United States that it's a fair election. And that's where this whole investigation is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when something's infected, it hurts, right? When you press on it. And when Republicans were pressing for voter ID laws throughout the country, which again is wildly popular, it's one of the most popular. I mean, we have the polling. It's one of the most popular things in America right now. Check this out. Voter ID opinion. 85% of the country wants voter ID. 85%. So that means a preponderance of Democrats want voter ID. But when we were pushing for that, that was considered in 2021 the single most racist thing you could ever ask for, right, is voter ID. They were shrieking from the rooftops about that. And you'd have to assume that that's because they had a fake ID scam set up. And that's how they cheated the 2020 election. You have to assume that. Why else would you rage at the Sun so harshly against an issue that is so popular with the American people unless you had some type of fraudulent system set up to run fake IDs and get fake ballots?
Right. And keep in mind, they were saying Republicans were targeting minorities. We're specifically targeting minorities. That's what we're trying to suppress the minority vote. And yet the minority vote are the ones that are honestly disproportionately on federal programs. And yet every federal program that you're on, you're required to have a ID. Yes. You're required to have a Social Security card. You're required to be identified that you're eligible for those benefits. And so it doesn't make any sense other than the fact that they're trying to be able to run the score up in certain circumstances where they want to control the election. There's no other excuse for it. And like I said, I'm not a conspiracy person, but it's just, you got to follow the math. And that's why I love math. Math either adds up or it doesn't. It's not a theory. At this point, it's math, because it's the amount of illegal voters that voted versus the ballots that came in versus traditional trend lines, which is what you were showing a while ago, of how did we spike in 2020 when historically you're running at a pretty level playing field. How is it that in 2020 you almost double your vote count and then go right back down 4 years later? Someone explain that one to me, because we didn't have that many more people actually register. We didn't have that many more people born in the United States, because remember, that's what Elon is trying to do, is trying to increase our population because our birth rate is down. So that didn't just fluctuate by itself, because if it did, it would have stayed somewhat consistent 4 years later in 2024.
That's right. It'd be nice for somebody to explain this. Maybe we do. Maybe we have some breaking news, Senator, from your neck of the woods, actually. Ken Paxton of Texas, like at time of show, right now, just released a breaking investigation into 33 different non-citizens illegally voting in the 2024 election. So if you have dozens of criminal aliens voting in Texas, which has very strict voter ID laws, and I'm sure I know Oklahoma does too, but if dozens of criminal aliens can cancel out the votes of actual American citizens who belong here, like me and you, then, well, how rampant is this in blue states, which, here's a good map. Speaking of Elon Musk, here are the number of blue states, these are the states that Kamala Harris won, that have no ID. Would you look at that? There's like a perfect one-to-one correlation of states that don't require ID that went for Kamala Harris. Would you look at that?
And so, but people need to realize too that, well, it's 33 people in all of Texas. Is it really that big of a deal?
Yes.
I understand this is how businesses will manage complaints, is they'll assume that every 1% of a complaint represents additional. So for every one, depending on what your percentage is, so we'll just do percentages, 1% will represent 65%. So if you're getting a full 1%, there's another 64% that will never complain. They just will never use your services again. So when you have a 1% population base that is complaining about your company, you have some real issues. So now you start looking at the percentages of fraud that is very difficult to find, especially if you're not important. And they have 33 right now that they've just found. I would be curious to know what percentages that they think that relates to the overall fraud that took place in the state of Texas, which, by the way, state of Texas is actually, it has ID laws. So then you use the blue states where you can just walk in and say, I want to vote. That's wild. So in 2020, I was in California because my son had a real bad brain injury. And so we were there in 2020 and 2021 for him to go through real rehabilitation in Bakersfield, California. And Bakersfield's a blue city. And it felt like I was actually in Oklahoma, except it was much, much hotter. But I got literally going down the road, walking out of Albertsons or going down at a stoplight. There was people handing out ballots for you to vote. And I had Oklahoma tags on my vehicle. No, I'm not kidding. And I had Oklahoma tags on my vehicle. We would go to the restaurant, and the restaurant, it had ballots that you could pick up at the restaurant. And this is in Bakersfield, California. We were staying at an RV. We were staying in our RV, and at the RV park we were at, they had places where you could pick up a ballot, and you didn't have to show any ID at all. And in fact, I even asked, I said, so what type of identification did I have to show for this? And they said, are you living in California right now? And I was like, well, no, I'm not living. I'm staying because my son's going through rehab, but I live in Oklahoma. And they said, well, do you pay bills here? And I was like, well, I pay for my RV spot. And they were trying to convince me that I could vote. And I was like, no, you can't. And so I picked up the phone and I called Kevin McCarthy, because at that time he was the leader, minority leader. He wasn't speaker yet, but he was minority leader in the House, and he was our minority leader, and that's his area. And I called him. I said, what the heck is going on? And he filed a complaint with the state, and it did go away. He filed a complaint with the state and it went away. But how many were given out?
Sure.
So that's just Bakersfield, California, and that's just my personal experience. And Bakersfield is a Republican town. I mean, it's Kern County. Kern County is a Republican state or county too.
So, I mean, listen. Obviously, this is something that you're passionate about, and you're willing to talk about it. Unlike a number of other total cowards in the Senate who just want to like ignore it because they hate Trump and they actually wanted him to lose, and we know that, and they've been pretty open about that. Anyway, the point is, like, Senator, can you promise our audience here, who are big fans of you, that you're gonna like look into this, that like you'll be willing to share charts like this and like ask these questions and like join with Grassley to like really combat this?
Yeah,
the 2020 election chart is the one that this is the one that no logical human being could explain this.
No, there's nothing to explain it. There's no way. That's too big of an irregularity. I loved your example of Mark McGuire, even though some of your younger audience may not remember that. We got to throw Barry Bonds in that too at the same time. You're talking about and Sammy Sosa. Was it Sammy Sosa? Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. And so you had the Cubs and the Cardinals going at it yard to yard, and then kind of found out there was maybe some substance abuse that was taking place.
Definitely. Yeah.
But there was irregularities. That's what sparked it, right? That's what started the investigation into them, all the three of them, really, because of their performance spiked. This is a prime example of what you're showing. Their performance spiked, and then it dropped back down when they got caught supposedly with their hand in the cookie jar. There's a lot to this. There's a lot of people are out there talking about Venezuela possibly being involved in this. There's a lot of conversations. I will tell you, the Trump administration, the Senate, you got the intel community, especially with Cash Patel, that's all looking into it. Not necessarily, as I said, we can't fix the 2020 election. It's the idea is preventing something like that from ever happening again. That's our number one goal here. We can't fix the problem if we can't fully identify it. And I think we can all agree there was a problem. So it's incumbent on us to prevent it from moving forward. And I agree. I don't want to federalize the elections. Absolutely, worst thing we want to do is federalize the elections, because God forbid Democrats get in control again, then they will turn all of our states this way. So we need to keep state laws and allow states to be able to set their elections. That's the way that our founding fathers wanted it to be. But we need to have some security put in place that will make sure that people know that our elections are secure.
You could do national voter ID, I think. I mean, that's already a law technically, right? That
Right.
you have to be a citizen to vote.
Well, we just went through Real ID, right?
Right.
Everybody had to get Real ID. So
you can't fly anymore, right, without a Fed ID. So,
Right.
you know, you can't do anything really without a Fed ID. So that should be like that should be a no-brainer. And that doesn't have to like really get into the gears of the election systems themselves in the state. They can just be like an overarching. It's already law in the book that you have to be a citizen. There's already a penal code like written. There's already federal code about being a citizen to vote. So just tying that to a physical action of like you have to have a voter ID. Right.
And there's nothing wrong with this, because any dealings you do with the federal government outside of voting, you have to show your identity. You have to prove who you are. You're not eligible for Social Security benefits. You're not eligible for Medicare or Medicaid. You're not eligible for HUD or WIC or any of those federal programs like that, unless you can identify who you are, because you got to identify income levels or your age. And so this is no different. Why would we say voting it should be different than any other federal program that you're applying for? And it doesn't make any sense to me. So it's just too simple. But common sense, as you know, Benny, isn't exactly what rules the day here in Washington, D.C.
Yes. Okay. Well, very quickly, Senator, I know that we're up against very hard out here. Big breakdown yesterday, right? A little bit of a fracture, a little bit of a break in the MAGA base. You are one of those senators who really want to keep everybody together, but you saw Tucker and Trump sort of take some bark off each other yesterday. And then Donald Trump going, you mentioned the intel agencies coming into the Senate, Donald Trump talking about Tulsi Gabbard and saying, you know, like Iran does have a bomb, Tulsi Gabbard's not. Right. Well, she's the head of DNI. How do you square this? You're very close with Tulsi. You're very close with Trump. Like what's going on here in this greater ecosystem?
Tulsi is a very good friend, and President Trump are very good friends of mine too. First of all, I just want to let you know, MAGA base belongs to Trump. He's the one that created it. Tucker didn't. That's just a full stop. So for Tucker to make any reference that Trump isn't MAGA, it's like he is MAGA. I mean, he made the hat. The hat created "Make America Great Again," and we've all got them, right? And he's got his signatures on them. So you can't get more MAGA than the man that created it. First of all, and second of all, you got to think about what we're trying to do here. I get people are afraid of forever wars. I don't want a forever war too. First time you've ever smelt it, seen it, heard it, felt the repercussion, seen the horrific things that war brings, you never want to repeat that. But deterrence is what prevents that. And posturing, the way the president is posturing, is called deterrence. At the same time, making it very clear that we are not going to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. That is a threat to America, because they chant every single day, "Death to America." And there's nothing that they want to do more than destroy America and Israel. And so if we can allow Israel and give them the assets to be able to go after this, then they're doing all of us a favor. And by the way, every country in and around that region, including Muslim countries, are thanking Israel for doing exactly this, because everybody knows Iran would be a disaster if they have a nuclear weapon, because they would use it and they would kick off a nuclear war. So what President Trump, if God forbid, we would have to commit troops, which we would if Iran specifically targeted U.S. assets or personnel, because President Trump made a red line and he doesn't bluff. The difference between going in at that point and going in with maybe another president is the President Trump would have a very clear line of what victory is. When you start a war, you need to know what victory is. For instance, when Osama bin Laden was taken out, I think at that point we should have had a systematic drawdown and withdrawal from Afghanistan. We was going after Osama bin Laden. That's why we were there. After we killed him, we should have been pulling out. That's my opinion. And I believe if President Trump would have been president, we would have been there, because President Trump is always talking about peace and always talking about stop the killing. He's always the one that's trying to end the wars. He's made it very clear about that. And so if we had to do it, it'd be very clear what victory is. Victory would be, we're not looking for regime change. That's not what he said. What he said is that they will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Once we knocked out their ability to have any type of infrastructure to have a nuclear weapon, that would be victory, and we would leave. Because we're not wanting to occupy Iran. We're not wanting to do that. That's not what we're going to. So if you define victory, we can have the shock and awe and be done. But I don't believe that will happen because they fear President Trump because he has postured with deterrence, and deterrence eliminates a lot of aggression activity towards us that would prevent us to react. And so I think we're in a good position. I don't think we'll have to get involved. I think Israel, as long as we give them the tools and the assets they need to finish the job, they're more than capable of doing so.
I mean, yeah, I think it's fundamentally not our war, but I find it particularly interesting. Like Tulsi says they're not, you know Tulsi really well.
Yeah.
She's not dumb. And she's the director of national intelligence for a reason. She says that they don't have a nuclear bomb. Trump says that they do. And I'm just trying to square that.
I haven't got read in on it. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be on a classified level. And so even if they did, I probably couldn't talk to you about it here. Okay. But I have not got read in on that program. The last time I got read in is that they were within days of being able to get a nuclear bomb. Okay. We wasn't told that they actually had one.
Okay. You can't reveal classified information to hundreds of thousands of people. What are you, Adam Schiff? Like, come on, Senator.
I'm Fang Fang.
Yeah, you. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, I wonder if Fang Fang had a fake ID, and I wonder if Fang Fang voted. All right.
I'm going to bet she did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Wayne Mullen. Go ahead and follow him. He's a straight shooter. He's an honest man, and he spits it and tells it like it is. He's got that beautiful family. Happy Father's Day, late Father's Day. Nearly 300,000 Americans already follow the senator. You should be one of them. Make sure that we're fighting with the people who are fighting for us. See you, Senator.
Thanks, brother. Bye.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, what an interesting time to be alive. What a fascinating time to make sure that we are locked in. And soon, actually in just a minute here, we will be having two very special guests. One, we're going to be having our first in-studio guest, which is the President Trump's small business administrator. Her name's Kelly Leler, and she's going to be here, and it's going to be awesome. And we've never done an in-studio guest here at the Benny Studios. And as we tell you, we're going to be capacity building here. It's going to be very fun. She's from Georgia, so we're going to ask about voter fraud, and we're going to do it in person. It's going to be awesome. Get ready. We also have a candidate to take Ken Paxton's place in Texas that will be joining us, running for the next Texas Attorney General. Now that there's massive breaking news about criminal aliens voting in Texas, boy howdy, what a special day to have this booking. You just call this a banner day. That's what we call it around here, a banner day. Ladies and gentlemen, you can have banner days as long as you keep in control, keep your blood pressure under control. The way I do that is 120 Life. 120 Life is a spectacular drink that is made from all natural, organic, just 5 ingredients, helps lower the blood pressure. The old ticker here, for me, it's never been great. I've always had high blood pressure, runs in the family, probably does in yours. It's just like a common American thing. You get this high blood pressure, and then you work a job like this, and Tucker's fighting with the Trump, and Elon's fighting, and the Epstein list and everything. He's like high blood pressure through the roof. Got to make sure you're out, got to make sure you're moving, and you got to make sure that you're locking it in with your diet. 120 Life is not just here to help me manage my high blood pressure. It can also be helpful for people with diabetes. It's endorsed by 750 different doctors, healthcare professionals, who know that the key to a healthy life is making sure you manage your blood pressure. Heart attacks, man, are a real killer, and there's a ton of other problems that can happen when your ticker's bad. 120 Life can provide visible, measurable changes in blood pressure. Simple monitor at home. You can track your progress. And ladies and gentlemen, they even got their guarantee that you're going to be feeling better and healthier. Because of that, what do you have to lose, ladies and gentlemen? Risk-free 2-week trial pack. They offer a money-back guarantee that your blood pressure doesn't improve or if you're not satisfied. For a limited time, try 120 Life. Save 20%. Use the code Benny at checkout. 120 Life. 120 Life offers a risk-free full refund if you don't get lower blood pressure numbers in 2 weeks. 120 LIFE. LIFE.com. Code Benny, B-E-N-N-Y. Save 20%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's rock and roll with a man who wants to rock the great state of Texas. I know a lot of people very angry in Texas right now because of this breaking news of criminal aliens voting. Aaron Wrights is joining us. He's a candidate for Texas Attorney General, former DOJ Office of Legal Policy. Very interesting. Welcome, Aaron, to the program. Aaron, thank you so much for being on the show. A lot of breaking news right now, including straight out of your state. If you were to become the Attorney General of Texas, how would you be prosecuting these dozens and dozens of criminal aliens who voted and rigged your election in 2024?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Benny. The bottom line is we're going to throw the book at them. I love to see this news coming out of the Attorney General's office. It's sort of bittersweet. It's good to see that Attorney General Paxton in the state of Texas is taking action against it. But it is extremely alarming to see that this sort of rampant fraud is even happening in a state like Texas, which compared to many other states around the country has fairly secure elections. So my point in saying that is even in Texas, election fraud is happening in all of our major cities. And I'll tell you that part of what makes me fit to be the next Texas Attorney General to succeed Ken Paxton is in both the 2020 and 2022 election cycles, I captained our state's election integrity teams, which was sort of a devoted effort of resources towards ensuring that those elections were secure. I also was spearheaded what is now known as Texas v. Pennsylvania. Back in the 2020 election, you and Senator Mullen were having a great conversation showing those charts where that 2020 election was just totally abnormal. Yeah, there it is up on the screen. And there's a reason for that, and it's because the 2020 election was a stolen election. It was rampant with irregularities, and as President Trump was searching around the country for champions to challenge it in courts, it finally landed on our desk in Texas. And Attorney General Paxton and I looked at the claims that we were fixing to bring, and we said, look, these 4 states ran their elections in an unconstitutional way, in a way that violated the Electors Clause of the United States Constitution. We need to bring a lawsuit against these states, and the only way to do it is to go straight to the United States Supreme Court. Now, unfortunately, the court didn't hear us, but the point is merely that from the time that I've been in the arena up until the present moment, I've demonstrated an understanding of the nature of the threat to our elections, the need to take decisive, well-resourced legal action to secure the ballot. And this most recent breaking news this morning is an example of the kind of work that Texas's next Attorney General is going to have to lead on. And I'm happy to see that Paxton is taking decisive action against it.
I view this as such a horrific crime because this is mass voter fraud. Right, there are cities in Texas that have 33 voters in them. Right, like you are nullifying the elections, the will of 33 Texans. Now, if you can find 33, you can probably find 3,300 or 33,000. Right, depending on the state. And so this is mass voter fraud, but also more importantly, it's robbing. And we haven't met before, so I didn't know you were so tied in, right, with the 2020 election and with President Trump. It's robbing. It's robbing us, right? Like you work so hard in this country, you pay your taxes for the right to vote, and you're born here, and you work hard, and it's like this steals it, right? So that took away my vote, right? So one of those 33 people nullified I vote for Trump.
Right.
A criminal alien from China or El Salvador, they vote for Kamala. That means my vote disappeared, right? They stole it from me, bro.
Yeah, no, it's actually worse than that. It's not just like here's 33 illegal votes that then take away 33 legal votes. It actually shakes to the very core citizens' confidence in their election system, right? And so the legitimacy of our democratic system fundamentally relies on widespread public trust and confidence in the integrity of the ballot. And so when you see something like this, yes, on a numerical basis, it's canceling out 33 lawful votes. And that's a problem in and of itself. But I think even more fundamentally, when news like this breaks, it causes Texans to really wonder, okay, if this is happening, what's beneath the surface? And can I really even trust anything that's happening when the computers spit out a result and tell me who did or didn't win this election? And you have to have a Texas Attorney General who understands both the nature of the threat, who understands the kind of legal action that needs to be taken to stop the threat, and who's not just talking about it, but who actually has the battle scars to prove that he has been fighting in court on these things over the course of years. And there's only one candidate in this race, either currently or even hypothetically, if others get in, that has the battle scars to prove that they know how and when to fight for election integrity. And it's me. And you can learn more about me at aaronwrights.com, AARONREITZ.com.
Aaron, real quickly, two major issues that we've covered with Texas: the longest contiguous border with Mexico. What are you going to do to human smugglers if you get the attorney general position here in Texas? How bad will life be for the people who are some of the most evil people in
life is going, they are going to wish for the death penalty because of how bad it's going to be for them once I'm the next Texas Attorney General. Look, I have been working on border security issues and illegal immigration from the very beginning. Again, going back to my time when I started as Ken Paxton's deputy in 2020, and then Biden was sworn in January. We immediately began litigating on illegal immigration, the invasion of aliens into our country, border security. And when I was the Deputy Attorney General for Legal Strategy, I sued the 46th president 46 times during my 3 years there. And almost 20 of those nearly 50 lawsuits were on illegal immigration and border security. And so the next Texas AG is going to need to partner with the Trump administration to really bring justice to the victims, deliver justice to the victims of human smuggling. Look, folks who haven't seen the border crisis, the invasion of illegals up close and personal, don't fully understand the scope of what they've done to what they've done to young women, to girls, to families, to our communities. They have ruined lives left and right. And when I'm Texas Attorney General, I look forward to partnering with President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, law enforcement all throughout the state. And we are going to absolutely crush human smugglers, drug smugglers, sex traffickers. And again, there's only one person in this race who has actual battle scars to prove that he has litigated on these things. And it's me. And you can learn more about my record at aaronwrights.com.
Fantastic. Just really quickly, were you part of the team that put together the barbed wire buoys that were there in the Rio Grande? Like
that was,
that you? Because I was like, well done. I was like, where do I send the Christmas card?
When I was at the AG's office when the governor was thinking about rolling that out, yes, I was a critical advisor in rolling out that program. But then went to Senator Cruz and spent there are the pictures. And then
the chainsaw buoys. Chainsaw buoys. It's amazing.
Your audience and Texans can absolutely rely. We're going to bring back and make great chainsaw buoys when I'm Texas Attorney General. There's no question about it. It's a #1 policy priority of mine, and you can learn more about my chainsaw buoys at aaronwrights.com, AARONREITZ.com.
grab that one. Yeah, you can see the barbed wire and the chain, and then there's like chainsaw teeth on the buoys.
Yeah, look, my only criticism of what you're looking at is like the chainsaws are not large. We need to go bigger, better, more beautiful, and you're going to see that when I'm the next Attorney General.
All right. Well, you worked for Ted Cruz, right?
That's right.
And one of my first videos I ever did was Ted Cruz eating bacon off a machine gun. So you come from good stock is what I'm saying. And the chainsaw buoy is the next. So we'll eat bacon on the chainsaw buoys. There we go. That's how you spend a summer.
Put the bacon on the engines of the chainsaws. We're going to cook it up real fresh, and we're going to just blow the whistle and deport the illegal aliens, and we're going to be having a good time.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can follow Aaron Wrights right here. Here's his website. There's his website, and then also you can follow him on X. We'll put both up. There's Aaron Wrights right there with his beautiful family. Happy late Father's Day. What has he got? 4 kids?
We've got 4.
My man.
That's right.
My man. And then here's his. Here he is on X, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you are following the next Attorney General for Texas. You've won me over. That's full endorsement from me. This is an amazing interview. Thank you, Aaron.
Beautiful. Hey, thanks so much, Benny. I appreciate it.
Later, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some very, very special thing for you, which is the first time a Trump administration official is joining our show live. And we're going to do this live in studio. We're going to change our humble little studio here up so that we can accommodate a second guest. Of course, we're always live. We're doing this, ladies and gentlemen, off the backbone of the company that makes sure that we can go live and stay live no matter where we are in the country, and that's Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is the cell phone company that locks us in when we are all over the nation for coverage, or when we're right here in humble Tampa, where we broadcast from the great state of Florida. Hearing though how gassed they're going to be in Texas, that new Texas AG, chainsaw buoys. Do we have any chainsaw buoys in Florida? We've got to think about that. Klein, we got to think. We don't have a border with Mexico. Okay, so we don't have a border with Mexico. We change it to the Gulf of America. The point is that when you're vacationing in the Gulf of America, you take your Patriot mobile phone, you take a photo, you feel like a patriot. It's the only Christian conservative wireless provider in the country. They're available on all three major networks, and ladies and gentlemen, they rock. They keep us connected on the road, and their U.S.-based customer service team can have you switched over in minutes. Patriot Mobile. Ladies and gentlemen, faith, family, and freedom. Go right now to patriotmobile.com/Benny or call 972-PATRIOT for a free month of service with the promo code Benny. Make the switch today. Defend freedom with every single call or text that you make. patriotmobile.com/Benny or call 972-PATRIOT. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, while we switch over the video, while we switch over the studio, correction there. Yep, just seeing here from our team. While we switch over the studio, we want to play you the president. Now, the president is obviously somebody who has appointed Kelly Leler. She'll be here in person, and she's the administrator of small business for our country. The president was on Air Force One today doing a little press conference. It's not a long press conference, but while we switch up the studio here, we're going to play that press conference for you. And we think that obviously with so much going on in the nation right now, it is more important than ever to listen to our commander-in-chief. Donald Trump did leave. The pretext of this is that there was a pretty dramatic night last night. Donald Trump said, "Get the hell out of Tehran." This led, of course, to this is a city of 10 million people. This led to a lot of people leaving, big traffic jams, a lot of chaos, and Donald Trump left the G7 meeting early in order to call the National Security Council together at the White House. And so President Trump did a gaggle on Air Force One as he was jetting off in order to get back to D.C. for some important business. And so as ever, we're going to let the president speak, and then we're going to have a presidential appointee in studio with us next. Here's the President of the United States from earlier this morning.
Did everybody have a good time?
Did you have a good time?
How about you? I did. I always have a good time.
You just posted right before we took off that you're not leaving because of a ceasefire. Why are you? Can you elaborate?
We're looking at better than a ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire.
That just means you're looking to get into this more. You're not going to involve the U.S. in this conflict in this stage. You're going to do anything more for Israel right now?
We're doing pretty well. Right now, we're doing pretty well. Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. We don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
What was the thinking on the call for Tehran to evacuate? Is there a threat or is there incoming? What was the thinking on the full evacuation?
I want people to be safe. And that's always possible. A thing like that could happen. I just want people to be safe.
Is there any new concern about U.S. troops or assets in the region at all today?
Great people, they know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better, what's
we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard. Lyndon loves her off so beautifully. Now, I think they know not to touch our troops.
Are you sending the vice?
When you say
Do you plan to send the vice president and Steve Witkoff? There's reports that you want to send the vice president and Steve Witkoff to meet with the Iranians and have discussions. Is that something you're considering?
Not sure yet. I may. Depends on what happens when I get back.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
An end. A real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that will be permanent.
Yeah. Or giving up entirely.
Is that
okay too?
Are you close there? Is that possible in the next 24
Why not? Certainly possible. give up. That's possible, yeah.
Has the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense drawn up plans for you if Iran were to attack U.S. bases or do any damage to U.S. bases?
Just can't tell you.
Can I ask you, because there's been some skepticism, is there any guarantee that if the U.S. did get involved militarily, that a U.S. bomb could destroy Iran's nuclear program and facilities?
Use of everything or anything on life, you know that. Look at you, right? There's no guarantee. But you're saying a guarantee on what?
Do you think if the U.S. got involved militarily, it would actually wipe out Iran's nuclear program, or where's your assessment of that?
I hope their program's going to be wiped out long before that. But they're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
Do you have any reason to believe the Israelis are going to slow down, or are they going to hit the accelerator right now?
Well, we're going to see. You're going to find out over the next 2 days. Right? You're going to find out.
Has the Gang of Eight?
Nobody's slowed up so far.
Has the Gang of Eight been notified about what's coming in the next couple days?
Well, we'll be talking to them.
What can you do?
It's not necessary.
What can you do in Washington that you couldn't do in Canada?
Just be a little bit, I think, more well-versed. Not having to use telephones so much because I don't believe in telephones. Because people like you listen to them. So being on the scene is much better. And we did everything I had to do on the G7. We had a good G7. We signed a deal with the European Union, phase one of a deal. But we signed a deal with the UK. And the UK is really great. We're very far down the line with a lot of deals. I mean, look, we're actually finished with every deal if you really think about it, because all I have to do is say, this is what you're going to pay.
Did Secretary
But it's nice to be nice.
Did Secretary Bessent stay behind as your representative?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, a couple of people.
Can I ask you where...
Who else has a question other than CNN fake news?
Mr. President, you talked with the European Union. Can you tell us what the status is on talks on those who signed
Well,
with
we're
the UK
talking,
today?
but I don't feel that they're offering a fair deal yet. They've been very tough over the years. If you look at European Union, they formed in order to hurt the United States on trade. And we're either going to make a good deal or they'll just pay whatever we say then.
What about the Japanese, sir? You met briefly with Prime Minister.
We had a great conversation. I thought he was terrific, actually. You know, I was very friendly with Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister. He was a great man. But I think he's going to do a very good job.
Do you think you have a chance of a deal there?
There's a chance. They're tough. The Japanese are tough. But ultimately, you have to understand, we're just going to send a letter and say, this is what you're going to pay. Otherwise, you don't have to do business with us. But there's a chance.
They want changes to the auto tariffs as well. Is that on the table?
We'll see what happens.
All right.
Anything else?
Yeah, this drone attack in Kyiv. What's your response to that? It looks like 14.
When was that?
A drone attack, Russian drone attack in Kyiv.
When?
Very recently. Just now. 14 civilians in an apartment building.
You mean as I'm walking back to see you? That's when it took place?
Something like that.
Sounds like it. I'll have to look at it.
Are you going to give
on the Middle East? What changed about that convinced you to sign on to the G7 joint statement?
Well, I haven't seen the statement yet, but I authorized them to say certain things. I don't know whether or not they said them correctly, but I think they probably did. We had a good meeting. I think that Canadian representatives were very good. He did a very good job.
How are the
Carney did a very good job.
How was your meeting with him? How were the trade talks looking with the Canadian?
I think it was good. I think we had a lot of good talks with a lot of people.
You said he's looking for something more complex. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
Well, they get too complex on the deals and they never get done. And we need speed. You know, we're dealing with really, if you think about it, probably 175 countries. And most of them are going to just be sent a letter saying, it'll be an honor to trade with you and here's what you're going to have to pay to do it. We're making a lot of money. You know, we took in $88 billion in tariffs. And I was called by Congress about 2 nights ago saying, we don't understand, the numbers are so far off. And I said, is that good or bad? He said, well, we're taking in so much more income than we thought. We've never seen anything like this. What is it? I said, check the tariff column. And it's about $88 billion that they've never seen before. And that's nothing compared to what it's going to be.
You've got other tariffs coming down the pipe here.
I have a lot of them, yeah.
What's the timing on those things like lumber, copper, pharmaceutical drugs?
Yeah, we're going to be doing pharmaceuticals very soon. That's going to bring all the companies back into America.
All of them, or focusing on
they left us because we had presidents that didn't know what the hell they were doing. We should have never lost our car business. We lost 52% of our car business over the years. Should have never lost it. All they had to do is say, if you make a car, you're going to leave us, you're going to make a car, you're going to pay a 25-30% tariff, and they would have never left. Nobody said that to anybody until I came along.
Homeland Security is saying that ICE is going to start enforcing in hotels and farms again. Is that a change of course from last week?
We're going to look everywhere, but I think the biggest problem is the inner cities. We're looking everywhere. Look, what they let into this country, what Biden let in, or allowed to, I don't think he knew what the hell he was doing, frankly, but whoever worked for him, what they let into this country, we're never going to forget it. They let Democrats, if we had George Washington up for approval, the Democrats would take maximum time, every hour, every minute, to delay him as long as possible. If we had a combination of Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, they would go max, it's called max time.
Mr. President, you've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
I got us one on. You were at this beautiful scene for the meeting, and you said a lot about acquiring Canada as a state. Did anybody talk to you about that? And where
I think it's a much better deal from Canada, but it's up to them. They're going to have to pay a lot of tariffs and things. They're going to have to pay a lot of money for the dome, for the Iron Dome. They want to be a part of it. We may make a separate deal on that, by the way. We discussed that, on the dome. That may be a separate deal. They want to be at $71 billion. They're going to pay.
There could be a dome thing separate from the tariff.
They'll be in the dome. Yeah, they'll be under the dome.
And were you open to negotiating with the Iranians right now, or do you want to wait?
I don't know. I've been negotiating. I told them to do the deal. They should have done the deal. Their cities have been blown to pieces. They've lost a lot of people. They should have done the deal. I told them, do the deal. So I don't know. I'm not too much in a mood to negotiate now.
Do you think you'll be in the Situation Room tomorrow at any point?
Yeah. Tomorrow morning, girl, while you're sleeping. Goodbye, everybody.
Why did you tell people to evacuate Tehran? You know, you posted evacuate.
Yeah, I think it's safer. There's a lot of bad things happening there. No, I think it's safer for them to evacuate.
On Minnesota, there were a lot of horrific details that came out today about the suspect who's been charged there. Have you called the governor yet or been able to speak to any of them?
I don't really call him. He appointed this guy to a position. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? I could call him and say, hi, how you doing? The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. So, I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
On the big, beautiful bill, sir, or can you talk about what the
We're
Senate...
doing well with the big...
How's it looking in the Senate?
The great, big, beautiful bill, right?
Are you okay with their changes?
I hear so far it's going well.
Are you going to extend?
Look, if it doesn't get approved, 68% tax increase, and I think the Democrats would have to, they'd be, because we won't get Democrat support. Think of it. We're giving the biggest tax cut in history. Instead, you have the biggest tax increase in history. 68%.
Are you going to extend the TikTok deadline again?
Probably, yeah. Probably have to get China approval. I think we'll get it.
You have the legal basis.
I think President Xi will ultimately approve it.
And you have the legal basis to do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we do.
Two more on Iran. Is there any sign that North Korea is getting more involved in helping Iran, or is Russia getting more involved with military?
I haven't seen it. I don't think anybody wants to get involved. It's a mess.
What about American citizens, U.S. citizens who are trying to leave the area with the airport shut down, Ben Gurion shut down?
We're doing the best we can with it. We're working on that. We're doing the best we can. Thank you, everybody, very much. Have a good time.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are live in the studio with our first ever in-studio guest, the Honorable Kelly Leler, who's here from the Small Business Administration. She's the administrator, a Trump appointee, a absolute bombshell of an administrator who's crisscrossing the country right now, just rolled a cigar, in fact, here in Tampa, to talk about President Trump's big, beautiful bill and how it will help small businesses. And it's our honor to have her in the studio today. And I have the official photos of Kelly Leler rolling a cigar, fresh off of rolling a cigar. Do you have it with you? Do you have the cigar with you?
Well, I do have it in the car.
Okay.
Maybe I'll gift it to you after. It was such a great honor to be with you in studio here in Tampa. This is really incredible.
All right. Well, as we adjust our shot there we go. Okay. So there's the photo. We have it proven. Anyway, how's the big beautiful bill coming?
Well, the one big beautiful bill is going to pass, but we've got to get it over the finish line sooner than later for small businesses. That's why I'm out getting across the country, talking to small businesses, understanding how important it is. Look, it's the pass-through deduction made permanent. Corporations have certainty on their tax rate. Small businesses absolutely deserve that certainty. It's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. This is about small businesses and hardworking Americans that deserve to keep more of their tax dollars and not send it to the federal government.
I've never had, so this is, again, I'm just still like absorbing how exciting this is to have in-studio guests, and also to have our first in-studio guest be a successful Trump appointee working in the cabinet and also rolling cigars at the same time. It's just great. It's just all of it's great. It's all aligning, and it's a wonderful
Well, it's a tremendous honor to serve in the Trump administration for so many reasons, but largely because President Trump is creating this economy that lifts all Americans up. He's making us great again as a nation. He's fighting for fair trade, for making our taxes lower, for less regulation. And that's what this is about, is getting the message out across this country, and he's keeping us safe too. So God bless President Trump.
So big, beautiful bill going to pass. Yes?
I believe it's going to pass. I think my question is when, and hopefully before the July 4th holiday. I would love that for small businesses so that they have the certainty of tax cuts, but not just for small businesses, for hardworking Americans that will face a $4 trillion tax increase if this bill expires, if the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expires at the end of this year. That means every family's tax rates will go up 22%. Small businesses' taxes will double. We'll lose the pass-through deduction. The child tax credit will be cut in half. The list goes on. And the one big beautiful bill does so much for this country besides cutting taxes. It secures our border. It provides for our energy dominance and so many other things. So it's vital that we get this done. And I know I was in the Senate last week speaking to Senate Republicans at their lunch, and they know how important small businesses are. But you know who really knows? President Trump. He says to me every time, Kelly, small business is big business. And it absolutely is.
We're a small business here. Donald Trump is technically like a small business owner, right? Like he's up against these other big hotel chains and other big buildings and all these massive multinational conglomerates. It's like he totally gets that, and that's got to be a little stressful. What's it like having Trump as a boss, especially knowing that like he's a small business guy at heart?
Well, it's incredible because he sets the pace for all of us in the cabinet. Look, he runs in a gear that this country deserves to have, and we're running at the speed of small business. Small businesses do more with less. We know how important everything is from the DOGE cuts. We've got to make sure that we're cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. We've found massive amounts of it at the SBA alone. But President Trump is an incredible leader, and to serve under his administration is very humbling, and it keeps us going every day. That's why I'm in a different state every day working with small businesses to make sure that their voice is heard and that they know that President Trump is fighting for them.
You going to go to California, check in on our favorite Batman villain governor?
Well, actually, we actually went out there. You know, President Trump went there right after he got inaugurated to support the wildfires. Right. And we've called on Gavin Newsom recently to declare an emergency, a disaster in downtown LA where the riots have really destroyed small businesses. And he has declined to rush that aid to small businesses that we could provide at the SBA in the form of economic injury disaster loans. And he's turning a blind eye to the fate of these small businesses where we estimate $1 billion in damage has happened to small businesses down there, and Newsom won't do it. That's why we announced we're moving out of sanctuary cities. The Small Business Administration is leading in that regard. Congress liked that so much that they actually passed a bill last week to codify the SBA moving out of sanctuary cities. If these mayors and governors won't keep their people safe, we will.
So wait, I just want to get this straight. So we saw all the buildings and businesses getting looted and burned. We saw that famous donut shop, right? Yeah. With the Mexican flags and the criminal aliens like burning cars and like torching these businesses. Some of them are small, humble businesses. Some of them are Apple stores, right? That are getting totally looted and destroyed. I think the Apple store is shut down indefinitely in downtown LA. So small or big businesses, either way, they're all shut down. And Gavin Newsom's saying no. He doesn't want help? He doesn't want like special disaster loans?
Well, he
That's
does.
insane. Like,
he doesn't want to admit they've created another man-made disaster by resisting ICE, and so we're going to keep our people safe. We're going to continue to call on him to support small businesses, and beyond that, we have to relocate to areas that are safe for small businesses. It turns out our office, we were prescient in deciding to move out of sanctuary cities before all of this because our SBA offices, both in New York and in Los Angeles, are just steps from where the riots are happening.
so can you explain that? What does it mean to move out of a sanctuary city? Does that mean that they're not going to get aid or assistance or help, like from, and they're not going to be able, like maybe you could take a step back and like explain what assistance is provided to someone if you're not a sanctuary city by the SBA?
Well, absolutely. So it's vitally important that we are everywhere across this country serving our small businesses. They make so many sacrifices to build. They create 2 out of every 3 new jobs. They make our communities what they are. We want to locate in adjacent areas that support federal law, that uphold the rule of law, and that we don't have taxpayer funding for sanctuary cities that defy ICE and the good work that Secretary Noem and Tom Homan are doing. Yes. So we're going to relocate, sometimes 6 miles away just to make sure people are safe and that they will uphold the law and keep our people that want to come in to visit the SBA safe.
Yes. So, okay, small businesses. This was a little bit of a brouhaha. There's been some interesting news cycles. Here's one. President Trump said, we're going to take it easy on mass deportations for hotel workers, for ag workers. And that didn't go great with the base. And now, as of this morning, it seems like he's totally reversed that. You must have been part of that decision, right? And these would be people that kind of fall into your wheelhouse, right? Hotels and agriculture. Can you explain what's going on there? Can you verify that that's true? And what was the process in that decision making?
Well, I can tell you what I know, which is that we have millions of potential workers, American workers, that want good paying jobs. They want access to benefits. They want to live the American dream. We need to find ways to lift them up, whether it's through retraining, skills training, the trades. There's so many opportunities in this country, and we saw that in a recent example where after a raid, they had a line out the door of American citizens that wanted those jobs.
In Nebraska.
I
read that. That was amazing.
They want good
inspirational.
Yes.
I got chills reading it. I was like, wow.
And we want that for everyone. And President Trump is creating an economy that is going to bring more people in. He did that in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It created over 4 million jobs. It brought more people into the workforce, record low poverty, record high employment rates for the Black and Hispanic community, 40-year high for women. If you create an opportunity that drives opportunity for everyone at every level, it will raise the lowest incomes faster than the top. That's what we need. We need to narrow that gap. And we do that by getting people into the economy, off the government benefits that the Biden administration tried to create handouts to buy voters. Yes. And what we want to make sure is that everyone has the chance to live the American dream. That's what small business is about.
Yes. So that decision, that rule has been overturned, and there's not going to be any protected classes for ICE enforcement.
Well, that's my understanding, okay. And really, I think that's President Trump's, commitment to America is to have the law and order brought back, the rule of law. That's what the One Big Beautiful Bill does. It provides funding for the border. We have to have a secure border. We have to have a sane immigration law. We know that there are a place for H-2A workers. We know there's a place for a proper immigration program. But cutting the line in front of law-abiding people is not the way to do it.
Yes, I mean, I'm from Iowa. I know that you're from the Midwest as well. Mm-hmm. We both grew up in like farm and agriculture communities. And those are the communities that are getting ravaged by fentanyl, where like Americans are like they're in depression spirals. Best way to break a young man out of a depression spiral is give him a job, like have him like go out in the sun and work, actually. And that's something we should incentivize.
Absolutely, and that's President Trump returning us to Made in America. I've been on a manufacturing tour. Communities like ours that were hollowed out by the exit of manufacturing and the shift over to China, all those jobs, 5 million jobs taken from our workers, that hollowed out communities, that created the chance for this drug crisis to take hold. President Trump's bringing back Made in America and that opportunity economy.
So awesome to hear. I was like, when you're from the Midwest, like never leaves you, right?
No.
Like I live in Florida now, but like it never leaves you, and you always have a heart for that because it is the beating heart of the country. So the beating heart of the show today is the breaking news, Speaking of criminal aliens and criminality, the breaking news of criminal aliens voting in our election. And we covered that Kash Patel has given demonstrable amounts of information that was hidden at the FBI about Chinese nationals voting in our election using fake IDs. Thousands and thousands, maybe millions of fake IDs. And then rigging the election effectively. We've shown tons of charts. We've shown all of the data. It makes absolutely no sense where the hell the votes came from or where they went in the year 2020. We want a full-scale investigation into this. You obviously, when you were running as senator in Georgia, man, Georgia was a nightmare. You don't have to remind everyone, but like it gives me the vapors, thinking about Georgia and what was happening in 2020 and what a mess it was. And I guess I want to start the question off by saying this, the thing they fought the hardest against was ID checks in Georgia after that, right? They were losing their minds that we would check IDs. And it seems like that really does lend itself to this story, that there was probably a fraudulent ID mass voter fraud system that helped Joe Biden rig the election.
Well, absolutely. And we'll never know the extent of it unless we can go back and look at that. And I'm so grateful to Kash Patel. I mean, he's doing incredible work. This is vitally important for so many reasons, voting chief among them. How do any of these policies matter if our elections are rigged? So we have to make sure we get back to the facts on this. And thanks to President Trump's leadership, we will do that. We will hold people accountable. And what's great about this administration is we're all working together to solve these challenges. I'll give you an example that relates to voting. At the SBA, we found hundreds of people had gotten loans, thousands actually, $630 million of loans went out to people over the age of 115 or under the age of 9. Well, why is that important? Because we use Social Security data to track that. Well, that's obviously people who also were voting. We have to figure out who voted in that election, what's happening, connect the Social Security numbers to the voter registration. And in past governments, they wouldn't let agencies cross over. Well, President Trump, under his leadership, we're all working together to ensure we're solving these problems in real time because we have another election coming up.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly right. Okay, so you're actually able, so the SBA, you're able to see fraudulence inside of your system. And is this in part with your partnership with Doge?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've had a very successful partnership with Doge. Can you unpack that?
Yeah, look, the Doge relationship has been invaluable, and I think as a country to have an initiative like cost cutting, getting to the bottom of waste and fraud, which is massive in this country, and the Doge effort really supercharges it, but providing the data analytics that we need as the leaders of these agencies to make these decisions and ask the questions, and then they get to the bottom of it. It's happening at warp speed, and that's what's so fantastic about this. We're able to get to the bottom of it, reshape the policies around that. So now we have put prohibitions on age limits around the SBA loan to prevent fraudulent actors from accessing loans. We've prevented non-citizens from getting loans by Doge finding SBA loans made to non-citizens, which are ineligible. So Doge is supercharging the efforts to get rid of all the stuff that everyone knew was out there, but now we're seeing it with our own eyes.
Wow. So it's worked out great for you.
It's worked out great. There is so much more to do, and I'm so grateful for President Trump's vision in implementing this. And I think, now we see governors across the country having their own Doge efforts, state legislatures. We need a lot more of this in government, and it's literally going to take a long time to get to the bottom of it, but we have a good start.
We're personally major fans that Donald Trump and Elon are besties again.
Yeah,
okay.
Me too.
Okay, good. So it's good to see. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to be enemies, right? You need to be allies in order to defeat this monster that we're up against.
That's right. And Elon did tremendous work. He's done tremendous work as an innovator. And so I said that one of his greatest innovations would be getting to the bottom of the corruption and abuse in government. And I think it is.
So, okay, he's technically a small business owner, right? Depending on the business that you're looking at, right? So you would speak the same language, right, as Elon?
Elon's wonderful. He's so committed. He believes in this country, and he really believes in President Trump's leadership. And so I'm glad they're friends again. And I think I hope that the Doge effort is here to stay. I believe it is.
Yes. What about codifying Doge in the Senate, right? So you got that, they got that going up. Passed the House.
Yeah.
Shockingly, some Republicans voted against it, which is insane. Okay, but it goes to the Senate now. What's up?
Yeah. So look, first of all, we've got to get the one big beautiful bill passed. I think that's absolutely critical in terms of timing to get the economy rocking and rolling. Look, President Trump's off to a tremendous start, fair trade, all these things. Rescission bills now. There's going to be hopefully dozens of rescission bills to get this wasteful spending that we've identified through DOGE out. But it is pretty shocking that a $9 billion rescission bill barely passed. Because we've got hundreds of billions of dollars to come.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so on the topic of fixing these fraudulent systems inside of the SBA and inside of like voting, and since you yourself, and you don't have to say it, I'll say it, since you were a victim of what I believe to be an absolute criminal voting system in Georgia, because we all watched what happened in Georgia in 2020. How do we restore the trust of the American people in our elections? This is like the biggest possible question. And it's a big one across the entire administration, which is like, call me what you want, but I want to trust the FBI. Like when the FBI puts a bad guy in prison, I want to trust that like they're doing that I've seen everything, that they're being transparent, the bad guy is bad, the FBI agents did the right thing. And that's been so destroyed over the last couple of years, what they did to President Trump, what they did on January 6th. It's been so atomized, that trust. And it's happened in our election too. And since you were a victim, right, of that system, how do you restore that, right? How do you fix that?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked, because it wasn't just in 2020, it was in 2021 in our Senate runoffs.
Yes.
And what I did was not accept the victimization. I said, we're going to get to work. Yes. And so I set up an election integrity effort, voter mobilization, diverse community outreach effort in Georgia to get out and do that work. And my biggest takeaway was getting involved in elections, understanding election laws. Where are they being exploited? Why don't we have voter ID? What's happening with state and local officials, to really look closely, because elections are run locally. And so we have to take care of a lot of these problems locally. Of course, we have to get to the FBI investigations of all the voter fraud committed that continues to go on. But we also have to make sure people are involved locally, because that's where elections happen. Yeah. And so that's what I did in Georgia. That's what a lot of people did after 2020. And it did make a difference to have people in Georgia. I know we passed a 100-page election bill right away in 2021, and then several other bills subsequently after. And it takes constant work. It's not one and done. It's over and over, because they're constantly looking at ways to change our elections.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, man, they're not sending their best, as President Trump would say. Okay, let's zoom out. Small business owner. We're a small business owner, That's like right. This is media is a tough business these days, right? We're like making it work. We're very proud of our humble little team here. What's your advice as we move forward to young Americans wishing to start small businesses, wanting to like capture their American dream and wanting to like go out and let it rip?
Well, you're crushing it as a small business. You're a great inspiration, I know, to so many people. And look, small business is so accessible right now to people that want to get involved, whether it's starting your own business or buying a business. There's a silver tsunami taking place. And what does that mean? It means, people in our greatest generation, baby boomers, may be selling their mom and pop business, their Main Street business. And what's exciting about that is a lot of people use SBA loans to buy those businesses. It may be a Main Street business that they take to the next level. So President Trump also is creating this opportunity economy that's going to let so many people live out their dreams. And so I think now there's never been a better time to be a risk taker, a job creator, an innovator, and a small business person. And it just takes that first step, because that's how you learn, right? That small business is about learning and growing in terms of that path. You never kind of fully get there, but you're on that path. So,
So apply for a small business loan if you got a good idea.
Yeah.
And get a hold of your office. Yeah. Can you walk someone through the process?
Yeah. So the SBA is across the country. We have 68 regional and district offices, and then we have 1,000 small business development centers that you can go to and talk through your business plan. Maybe you have a great small business, you want to make it bigger, you want to get a loan. They can talk to you about going to your local lender, how to apply for a small business loan. And that's a great start just to get those dialogues going about what might you need, what tax returns do you need to provide. They'll walk you through the process. It's pretty accessible. SBA.gov has a lot of information on it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been our absolute honor to have you here in the studio.
This
You've
was a
been our
blast.
first in-studio guest. We're making it work. Can we get a photo for the selfie wall here? All right.
All right.
Live on the stream. All right. Hey, thank you, everybody. Can we get a big round of applause for Kelly? Yes, absolutely. Amazing. We got the sound effects for you. Everybody loves you. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Madame Administrator. Okay. I know I'm not very fancy, so I hope that's
Kelly.
not right. Okay. All right. Kelly, Godspeed.
This was fun. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you so
Great
much.
work.
Shout out to the chat. All right.
And the LA icebreakers hit the streets again.
You are getting in the way. Hey, stop it! Hey, the wrong with you? Leave it alone! Leave it alone!
LA's mayor says, looks peaceful to me.
I will tell you, the 30,000 people were downtown LA. There were protests in 15 different locations in our city. I flew over each one of them, and they were overwhelmingly peaceful. It's not shocking that at the end of a protest that you're going to have some confrontation. Of course, I wish there was none at all, but I don't think that characterized the day at all.
If they were peaceful, she probably would have been on the ground, not watching from the sky. Chicago's mayor, who said Trump starting the second civil war, wants his city to burn, baby, burn.
We're going to continue to resist, and we're going to do it in many different ways, whether it's taken to the streets or to the courts or policy.
The media is providing air cover for the icebreakers and the Democrat mayors, fact-checking anybody who says maybe these riots aren't so peaceful.
And talked about communities being terrorized. Given the amount of tension in the country right now, is that really the language to use?
Yes, when you see left-wing street militias who are throwing bricks and frozen water bottles at police officers and shooting them with fireworks. And unfortunately, you have mayors and governors in some places that won't allow police to maintain order. The next step is to call in the National Guard. And if the governor won't call in the National Guard, then the president has to federalize them.
Founder and president of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk. So, Charlie, the mayors and the president are on a collision course over illegal aliens. How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, I think President Trump is going to win. And it's amazing the lengths that the Democrat Party will go to protect illegal aliens. And we have to just pause for a moment and recognize how successful President Trump's self-deportation plan has been so far. You mentioned it, Jesse, but I want to reemphasize it. 1 million people have already self-deported since President Trump has been sworn into office. The border is totally secure. Border Patrol agents, they don't know what to do with their time. While Biden was president, they were too busy acting as Trivago and Expedia.com travel agents for the entire third world that would show up on the southern border, and now they don't have much to do. But isn't it telling how the mayors of these big cities in Los Angeles and Chicago, they are held hostage by the most radical open border zealots in their party. Regardless of the destruction that they do and the cop cars they burn, they are unable to criticize or critique them because the life force of the modern Democrat Party and the globalist project is open borders. Thou shall have open borders is what keeps the Democrat Party together. And I have to just praise President Trump and his team's courageous immigration plan. And President Trump is now calling it remigration. We need more raids, more deportations. It's exactly what the American people voted for.
Right.
can't wait to know you. Take off your badge, big boy.
Peaceful protest!
Peaceful protest!
This is our city, and this was Mexico.
We'll burn this down.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Goodness gracious. Yeah, we appreciate you rolling with us through those clips and interviews, because we had to readjust we're working on a system here. We had to readjust the studio live during the show. Just making it work. Small businesses, ladies and gentlemen, and the great Kelly Leler here, our first Trump administration official in studio with us. How fun was that? That was amazing. Okay. We've showed you all those riot clips. The reason we've played you these little clips from Jesse Waters' show and the riot clips is that Gavin Newsom says that all the protests were peaceful. This was great. And that none of these businesses that you just watched actively being looted and destroyed, that all of it was fine. And that actually, in order to spite the Trump administration is trying to help out, they're going to refuse help, as the administrator just confirmed to us. How wild is that? It's a suicidal ideology, and ladies and gentlemen, it's having horrible effects around the country. We have just some interesting news yesterday that we went totally viral on because, well, we pay attention to these things. And that is that something really dark happened in Minnesota. And we want to touch on it just because this is something that we disavow. We're totally against political violence of all types, of all sorts. The No Kings protest was obviously a far left-wing protest that was all around the country, including in Los Angeles, but in our city and all over the place, right? There was a assassin, a political assassin, who went to multiple homes of elected officials in Minnesota to kill them. He ended up killing the Speaker of the House in Minnesota. It's totally evil. And he had No Kings flyers in the back of his car. Well, I don't know. That sure as hell seems like a connection. Turns out the guy was appointed by Tim Walz to a governor's board. Tim Walz's signature on everything, and that his wife worked for Tim Walz. So this seems like a crazy connection. He wore this mask before entering the homes of elected officials and attempting to murder and then murdering a woman named Melissa Hortman and her husband. But here's the problem. We've seen enough cover-ups. And we've seen enough lies to know that for us to believe the official story, you're just going to have to present the evidence. That's all. We'll believe the official story. Just give us the evidence. We're finding strange and particularly odd inconsistencies in this story. It starts, of course, with a Scooby-Doo level trail of clues that were left, like his hat was just sitting here on the roadside. This is just where they found it, right? He was wearing this cowboy hat, and they found it. But the strangest thing is this door. Have a look at this door. This is the door where police officers sent a hail of bullets in against the murderer. His name is Vance Bolater. And Vance Bolater is 57. He's not in great shape. He's overweight. Doesn't look like he could really run up a flight of stairs. They say he's 220. Looks more like 250. He walks with a limp. But apparently, according to the official report, Vance Bolater, here's a photo of him upon his capture, got that great MK Ultra look in his eyes, doesn't he? Looks like the Feds sent special forces in to get him. Didn't it? It's a little weird. Okay. I mean, I'm glad he's caught. Again, we disavow all political violence. This guy's a scumbag. Hope he rots in jail. Prove that he did the murders. Figure out why the hell he left his family of 5. Why this guy who was recently working at a 7-Eleven as a manager suddenly got a job working for an NGO to relocate Africans to Minnesota. Sorry, guys. I know MAGA, and that ain't MAGA activity. They're trying to say he's a big Trump supporter. He's a Trump voter. Really? Show me a Trump voter who works for a shady USAID-funded nonprofit to relocate a bunch of African aliens to their Midwest state. No, that's not normal. Working for Tim Walz, who ran for vice president against Donald Trump. That's not really MAGA, okay? Don't buy it. Don't buy it. There's something shady going on here. And now we learn from the police themselves, okay? We're just connecting the dots. We're just saying something's very strange happening. We're saying something very odd is happening with this guy's background. And that, no, he doesn't fit the MAGA description. He has no King's flyers in the back of his cars. Somebody explain that to me, please. Will you? Anyway. So the official story is that this very out of shape guy, walks with a limp, was able to dodge all of these bullets that were fired into the home and was then able to escape. Even though they had multiple police officers there, he was able to retreat into the home and then escape. And then something horrible happened yesterday. And I say it's horrible because it's some of the worst things. It's the worst thing I've ever heard. It's a press conference given by police in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This press conference describes the actual timeline of events. This is the first time we've heard it all laid out, one by one. So here's what happened. And I'll play you the clip, and you can judge for yourself. We'll always give you the evidence. We'll always show you the documents on this program. According to the official timeline, Vance Bolater, in this mask, in a Walter White mask, Vance Bolater was found by the cops in this creepy-ass mask outside of the home of Melissa Hortman. She's the Speaker of the House. Very powerful. She's a centrist Democrat, Speaker of the House. She just voted with Republicans. Many rumor that she was planning on switching parties, actually, to become a Republican, therefore giving Republicans control of the majority in the House of Representatives. I don't know. That's just speculation as far as I know, but that's what the rumors say. Police caught this man committing a ton of crimes. Let's just call it what it is. He's impersonating a police officer. He's wearing this creepy-ass mask. He's going and harassing this elected official at her house late into the night, and the police were sent to this elected official's house because he had already shot a member of the Senate. So they're already on high alert for a creepy guy going door to door shooting elected representatives. And the police catch this guy. This is what the police pull up and see this in the driveway. As this man has not entered the house yet. The police officers engage this man. According to the report, there's a firefight. They didn't hit him. They didn't get him. But more importantly, and this comes to my bone-chilling horror, they let him enter the house. The police stood outside while Vance Bolater entered the home, committed the murders, and then fled. Police were there the whole time. Now, I'm no cop, but let me tell you, protect and serve means when there is a deranged lunatic who's on a shooting murder spree, this is why you signed up for the badge. You get out there and you stop him from committing the murder, right? You don't just sit in his car while he murders. But that's what happened. This is insane. Listen to this story. The guy says police just stood by and let him murder. I'll play you the tape. Enjoy, chat. Here we go.
Belter then traveled to Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, in the home of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman. At approximately 3:30 a.m., Belter arrived at Representative Hortman's house in his black SUV with the police license plates. He parked in the driveway and left the emergency lights on his SUV flashing, as if he was a police officer. Belter approached Representative Hortman's home, again dressed as a police officer, wearing the tactical vest and body armor, and wearing that hyper-realistic mask. He was armed and carrying a flashlight. Before he entered the home, 2 Brooklyn Park police officers arrived at the scene. They too had been dispatched to check on Representative Hortman after learning of the shooting of Senator Hoffman. When they arrived at the scene, they saw Belter's black SUV parked in the driveway with the emergency lights flashing, and they saw Belter standing in front of the house several feet from the door. When Belter saw the officers get out of the car, he drew his weapon and began firing. He rushed into the house through the front door, firing into it. He repeatedly fired into the house, and when he entered, he murdered Representative Hortman and her husband, Mark. The Brooklyn Park police officers fired at Belter as he rushed into the home, but he escaped into the home and out the back.
You hearing that? You hearing that? I mean, did you just hear what I heard? So they stood there, they engaged him before he entered the home. Okay, you know, there was a firefight. But then in a unsuccessful stopping of him, they just sat there. I mean, to me, I mean, if I were to guess, this seems like some type of social justice policing, some type of like George Floyd level like restriction, perhaps placed on the cops, where you're not allowed to engage any criminal anymore. But I mean, in the world that I come from, somebody is sitting there shooting at you in the driveway. You don't let them enter the home of the innocent person. You stop them. You get out of your car. You do everything you can to prevent them from going in and committing the murders, and most importantly, escaping too. Like, all of it is important. Like, don't let them in the house. Don't let them commit the murders. Maybe chase them into the house, like stop them in some way, and then stop them from leaving and fleeing. But none of it happened. None of it happened, ladies and gentlemen. This is an awful, awful thing. It's a horrifying story that we've been covering. Seems like absolute and total negligence on the part of the police there. And we're not ones to sit there and blame cops the whole time. But again, this is Minnesota. Like, we're not ones to sit there and like wag our fingers and scold the cops, but there are good cops and bad cops. And these cops, according to the official report, stood by and let the murder happen. Holy smokes, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of somebody who's not standing by, President Trump just posting. Oh, also, just on this note, okay, now there's no manifesto. Just one final little thing. I told you that there's like, you can tell when there's a cover-up here, when like you start catching people in lies. We've been told that there was a manifesto. We've been told that there was a manifesto and a list. We've been then told that the manifesto is being reviewed. Then we were told that the manifesto won't be released to the public. Now we're told there's no manifesto. Does any of that seem strange to you? It all seems strange to me, okay? I'm not saying I have the answers, because I don't. I don't have the answers. What I'm saying is that something's like totally not making sense here. We're clearly not getting the full story. Speaking of the full story, I talked about this with the administrator when she was in. Washington Post, Trump reverses ICE exemption for farms, hotel, meat packers. Good. President Trump deputies have reversed a short-lived ICE exemption policy for hotel, farm, and restaurant companies. Officials on Immigration and Customs, including Homeland Security investigations, told agency leaders on a call on Monday that the agents must continue to conduct immigration raids on agricultural business, hotels, and restaurants, according to people familiar. Yeah, they like, don't you understand? Like, that's how we got into this issue in the first place. That there were like little goodies. There were like goodie bags that were given to people. So you can't just like say, okay, you can come here illegally, but you just have to be working in ag or a restaurant or a hotel. Like, you're good if you just work here. Nobody voted. The signs that were at the RNC convention said mass deportations now. It didn't say mass deportations of people except the criminals working in ag. No. Like, no free passes for anyone. By the way, when are we going to start prosecuting businesses? Like, clearly these businesses know they're hiring illegals. There's an employee verification system in this country. I know this as a small business owner. That verifies people's social security numbers, their addresses, like that they're here legally. When do we start coming after these businesses that do this? I think that's obviously an issue. Why didn't I ask that of the administrator? Guys, book her again. Book her again. Is she in the parking lot? Bring her back in here. Drag her back in. Left flyer. Left flyer. I should have asked that. That's what needs to happen, actually. Like, if the businesses stop hiring, they'll stop coming here. The criminal aliens. Anyway. Kraft Heinz, we always try and end the show with happy and good news. Kraft Heinz, this is like the biggest food producer in America, maybe the world, is removing all artificial dyes from their products by the end of 2027. Good going. They said on Tuesday they'll remove artificial dyes from its product by the end of 2027 and will not launch any new products in the United States containing ingredients that are poisonous dyes. Well done. Way to go. Way to go. You know, it's really hard right now as a parent to find food. We have to be very, very choosy to find food that doesn't have like artificial dyes. Try giving your kid, I don't know what red dye it is. What is the red dye? Red dye 40, I think it is. Yeah, red dye 40. Try giving that to your kids. And actually don't. This is not medical advice. Don't do it. There was like a couple years ago where like my daughter ate ice cream, you know, it was like a Cookie Monster ice cream and it like had all this dye in it, right? It's all this unnatural, like horrible, like chemical food dye. And she went berserker mode, you know, like there's something that messes kids up with these dyes. They're not natural. They're not good for you. They're literal carcinogenic toxins. And when you watch a kid like eat too much of it, they go nuts. They're not good for the brain. You got to be very careful because it's like these kids are developing, and you got to be very sensitive because that developmental process is sensitive itself. So very good. It'd be nice as a parent to just know that these dyes are illegal. And then I don't have to be such a helicopter parent. It's not really me. It's my wife, Nurse Kate, who's a nurse and very, very, very big on this stuff and has been for a long time, well before Maha. The point is that, like, it'd be nice to have that problem taken away from parents. That's a major issue for all parents that want to raise healthy kids, is these toxic food dyes. And so to like make sure that they're not in the foods and you don't have to worry about that. Well, that's just one less thing. It's incentivization for parenthood, and we need more of that. Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you like our program, if you love our program, and if you want more news, I have some breaking news from President Trump here. Please subscribe to our podcast, RSS feed, right here on the QR code on your screen. You can also go to thebennyshow.com, bennyjohnson.com, and you can find all the with one click of a button. You can subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, by doing this, we grow stronger. We must grow stronger. We must watch the lamentations of our enemies' women. Something like that. Yeah, Conan the Barbarian. Something like that. Yeah. What is the purpose of life? To see the lamentations of our enemies and hear the weeping of their women. Well, you can help us do that, ladies and gentlemen, by subscribing here, please. And thank you. We love you. We love the chat, ladies and gentlemen. And the chat's on screen. And they're on screen for the verse of the day. We just say thank you. It's been an exciting day for us. Can't believe we were able to pull that off, boys. That was fun. It's like neat. This is neat. There's like little things like I'm telling you, we're gonna grow. I'm telling you, we're working here. We're gonna grow this thing. We're working on new and exciting stuff. Get ready. We got some fun things. We're gonna break the internet with some of this cool stuff that we're gonna do. Here we go. Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of that going on today. And I want to say it with this post from President Trump, right? So Trump just posted on Truth Social, we have total dominance and control over the skies in Iran. Blessed are the peacemakers. Don't call war good. War isn't good. It's not. You go through the people's history of the wars that have been fought by this country in the last, throughout its history. There's a lot of wars, man. There's a lot of wars. You can look at, a good example is a very recent one. The war in Iraq. That was a lie. It was like a little predicated on a lie. Vietnam, Gulf of Tonkin. That was a lie. That was an op. That was set up. It was fake. Blessed are the peacemakers. Now, I believe in peace through strength, and it seems like this is what President Trump is doing. Here we go. We now have complete and total control of the skies of Iran. Iran had good sky trackers, defensive equipment, plenty of it. It doesn't compare to American-made, conceived and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. I don't want Trump. I want Trump to be a strength president, not a wartime president. I think it was perfectly put by Tucker Carlson as to why he's so anti-war. And he says, I don't want Trump to become George W. Bush. George W. Bush had all these great plans for the country. I got all these plans. I'm George W. Bush. We're going to do all these things. We're going to reform entitlements and all this stuff. What does anyone care about Bush? Nobody cares about a single thing he did domestically. Dude, you got us into 2 forever wars. Screw you. That's what everybody believes about George W. Bush. Everyone, left, right, center. Libertarian, Green Party. Doesn't matter. Like everyone's like, screw you and your stupid wars, including the people who fought in those wars by and large. Okay? And I'm not trying to like throw shade, but like, go talk to some of the GWAT veterans. Just go ask them what they believe. And it sucks. And that's all that Bush will ever be remembered for. And they're horrible and they're awful. And thousands of Americans died over there. And then we just hand the countries right back to the same terrorists, which is exactly what's happened now. Or worse yet, created a vacuum that created even worse terrorists like ISIS. No, it's it's a terrible use of our treasure. So there's a way to do it where you can do it peace through strength. So I hope that that's what's happening here. We're going to pray for peace. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. War is an evil. No such thing as the side of the angels in war. There's just really two different shades of demon, right? So you don't want, like, don't do the wars, man. Don't do the wars. You want to pray for peace. You want a peaceful land and a peaceful nation. You want to do that through strength. All right, ladies and gentlemen. What a fun show. What a rowdy time. We got maybe more of that to come. We're excited about making this a little place that you gotta hit up when you're in Tampa. You gotta come through and roll through and talk to the chat here, and it's our honor to roll with you. On to victory, ladies and gentlemen. We do win in the end. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
Refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime.
It's kind of a tradition down here. We tape these videotapes to the missiles. Each one is labeled evidence. This one's about a president.
I have been training for this day my whole life. Humans think this is a religious war, but I say, bah!
Imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey.
We have advanced technology these days. When the time is right, I will push the button.
This is where we launch the tapes with all the evidence. People say this war is about killing people, but really, it's about protecting our elite.
I don't know if we have nukes or not, but I got this button.
Where the truth gon' be, faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.